My name is Chris Stewart. I am a freelance science communicator. I do a lot of stuff with the university and other universities and researchers in general to help them find ways to tell their stories. And that includes events like this, where we get to take people who are doing research or people who surround themselves with research across all of the different fields and get you in front of the crowds, the masses, to say, what are we doing? What is this about? And we've got a really good what is this about event today. So I think it's probably time to get on with this. We are here this afternoon to see a talk given by a gentleman that I've known for a while now. James and I go back quite a few years, and I always really enjoy watching James at work because whatever the subject is, you know he's going to address it with great enthusiasm, a certain smattering of scorn, while also celebrating the technological and scientific lunacy of it all. And I think today's topic is a really, really good one for that. I don't know about you, but before a couple of years ago, I'd never heard the word fungible. Any of you know the word fungible before it came up? A few people. You know stuff. I didn't know the word fungible, and now fungible suddenly became a thing when you could buy non-fungible tokens. So not only did I have to learn what fungible meant, what isn't it when it's applied to a token that somehow I can buy, which is attached to a thing that I can't have? It's very confusing. And then we've got things like cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin and coins with strange meme-related dogs on them. And Elon Musk is telling me that I can go and buy a Tesla with things that I've known. None of this makes any sense. Something to do with blockchain in there. There are unbreakable cryptographic mathematical codes. It's all very, very confusing. Fortunately, we have someone here who can explain it all to us. Would you please make very, very welcome himself a roving science communicator. He did his PhD here at the University of York before heading off over to Stanford on a bit of an adventure. He's back now, and a roving science communicator here to talk to us about everything to do with crypto. Please make him very welcome, Dr. James Lees.
Okay, right, well, good afternoon everyone. I want to start with a couple of apologies and disclaimers. First of all, I did come in a blazer originally, but it is very hot, so I've gone from science communication chic to bloke in a t-shirt. I do also have some notes with me. I'd like to do these things without notes, but this is primarily to keep me on track, because we could be here for a long time otherwise. Now, so, as Chris had said, here we are, we're here today to talk about cryptocurrency. Now, I didn't know what kind of audience I was going to be speaking to. This is the first time I've done it offline. So I've gone for sort of the lowest common denominator. Today we are not going to be getting into any of the technicalities or any of the really nitty-gritty stuff of how the technology works. That's not what I'm interested in today, and I hope by the end I can prove to you that's not important anyway. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give you a broad overview of cryptocurrencies, NFTs, DAOs, other crypto-related projects like that. There will be some time for questions at the end. If you could please keep any questions to that time at the end. I think we're supposed to have about 15 minutes or so for questions at the end, and we'll have a conversation then. We'll talk about, again, though, once you're asking those questions, please don't ask me really technical questions. That's probably not everyone here is here to talk about or to be interested in. And the other one is everything that I'm going to say is not any kind of investment advice or should not be construed as such. Except my plea for you all to, if you do have some, you should probably just divest. Right! The year is 1999. The internet is just about beginning to become a real thing. Google has just started allowing for searches. Neopets has just started to take over the lives of teenagers across the world. And Napster is allowing people to share their music with one another. There's a problem, though. It is not easy to send and receive money on the internet. XPay, which will eventually become PayPal, has only just started and isn't available to most people. Banks really aren't involved with being able to take transfers, and credit card fraud is absolutely rife. If you are ordering something on the internet, you're essentially doing mail order through the phone, but with additional steps. So, there's a lot of people out there who think to themselves, well, how can we solve this problem? How can we get commerce on the internet? So, here comes the idea. a currency entirely online, a digital currency that you can only get and spend online. So in 1999, we get Beans. Beans is the web's currency. It brands itself as, and it does gangbusters. One slight problem, very quickly, they come across the regulatory issue of it's super illegal to just set up your own currency. So what they do is they very quickly become somewhere between a loyalty point system and a currency. The idea being that you can purchase a camera from Nikon and get some beans, which you will keep in your little bean counter up on the top of your screen. And then when you go and purchase something from, I don't know, what's a very 90s thing? I'm entirely lost. But maybe let's say you go to Neopets and you want to buy something from Neopets, you could use those beans to trade in for currency. And this is a way of trying to get around the regulatory hurdles. That doesn't stop them from being investigated and their offices in 7 different countries being raided. Now, Beans is doing fantastic. They have over 500 major retail partners. All of the big firms in America and a lot of the big firms in Europe are using Beans. They are worth over $450 million. That is in 2000. 2001, the web bubble burst. And on if I remember the date, the 16th of August, it is announced that in just 10 days' time, Beans will become absolutely worthless. Worth nothing at all. A $450 million company has gone bust. Everything looks good on one side of a bubble. Bitcoin is the first cryptocurrency, and you might assume, therefore, it's a resurgence of Beans, but it actually comes from a far, far angrier place. 2007, 2008, the world financial crisis happened. Essentially, global markets across the world collapsed. We're not going to go into why, it's complicated, but essentially, a load of rich bankers and hedge fund people and institutions realized that they could make a lot more money off the back of mortgages than actually through the mortgages themselves. So, they started pumping out mortgages. And when they ran out of good mortgages to give, they started giving bad mortgages. Because it didn't matter if they weren't going to make that money back. They were making money off the back of the derivatives of those mortgages rather than the mortgages themselves. About 2 years passed, which was the introductory offer on a lot of these bad mortgages, and they started to go bust. And once they went bust, because mortgages are the bedrock of the entire financial system, they are the safest, goodest bet that you can have, because who doesn't pay their mortgage? Well, when you're giving out mortgages to people who can't afford them, those people. And when they started going bust, other things started going bust. And a massive chain rocketed through the entire world's economy off the back of the decision of greedy bankers, investment types, and so on, to just make loads of money. And then governments stepped in. They were deemed too big to fail, and they poured billions of dollars into companies that had been making billions of dollars. And that made a lot of people very annoyed. Now, there were a few different ways that people came out of this. The big one was the 99% movement, people down here at the bottom who were saying, well, we are just getting screwed over by the top 1% of people, and we need to have some kind of redistribution of wealth, regulations, all of that sort of stuff. But there was another one. In fact, the other side of the coin. What if we just get rid of these institutions altogether? We don't want banks that can control finances. I mean, finances are essentially money on a spreadsheet. And the things that these people were able to do was because it was money on a spreadsheet. You could just move it around. As a bank, you could theoretically just add some zeros onto your spreadsheet. Now, there's lots of reasons why most people don't do that as banks, but that's not to say that it doesn't get done, and there are far more complex and perfectly legal ways that you can make lots of money by messing numbers around on a spreadsheet. So, people said, we don't want that. In 2009, a person or entity or group known only as Satoshi Nakamoto launches the white paper for Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. This is the first cryptocurrency, a currency which can only be traded between individuals on something called the blockchain. We're going to get back to that in a moment, but first I want to talk about Ethereum. Ethereum is the other big one. The two main cryptocurrencies are Bitcoin and Ethereum. Now, Ethereum comes to us from a man in 2009 called Vitalik Buterin. Here he is. He's a Russian chap. And back in about 2008, he, like many of us, was playing World of Warcraft. He was playing as a warlock, and he enjoyed raiding with his guildmates. But then, one day, Blizzard, the company that runs World of Warcraft, released an update. The 3.1 patch Secrets of Uldur. It released new exciting raids and adventures for people to go on. But another thing that it did was it nerfed the Warlock. It removed some of its power. It took a Siphon life spell and made it so it no longer did damage and healed. It just damaged instead. That to you or I might not seem particularly large, but by Buteran's own admission, he cried himself to sleep that night. He was angry. His beloved Warlock had been changed. And actually, that is something we do need to think about. It was his. It was something that he had spent a lot of time and effort and energy on, and somebody had come down from above and changed it. This could, in theory, happen to all of us in a lot of different ways. If you own any movies on Amazon or Apple, or if you watch stuff on Netflix, they have the ability at any time to just take away those movies. Songs you have on iTunes, they can take those away. It's only through the goodwill of their customers and various contracts and such that they keep any of those things around. So he did not like this. Around this time, he really got into Bitcoin. He started working for a Bitcoin blog and eventually launched his own Bitcoin magazine. These are the first 3 editions of which, and you can probably tell its kind of tone from the giant laser shark with fire coming out of its eyes. Now, as he got into this, he really got into cryptocurrency and he wanted to do something with it. He found Bitcoin to be very restrictive. See, Bitcoin, all you can do is take a Bitcoin and send it to somebody else. That's it. And he wanted to do more, so he invented Ethereum. Ethereum kind of works the same way as Bitcoin. You have these tokens, these coins that you can send to one another. But he did one key thing, was he made it so that you can put something in that token, a file. You can now have an Ethereum token and put a file inside that token. Now, the file is very small. It's about 46 kilobytes, which I checked is about 1/10 of an empty Word document. So there's not a lot inside it, but you can now put something in your cryptocurrency. Okay. What actually is the blockchain? Again, I'm not going to go into massive technical detail about what the blockchain is, because frankly, it doesn't matter. Let's look at this through the example of what we call the double spend problem. Let's say I want to buy a chocolate bar from our cashier here. If we do this with traditional currency, the chocolate bar costs £1, I have £1 in my pocket, I give that to the cashier gives me the chocolate bar. If I want to buy another chocolate bar from a different cashier, I can't do that because I don't have that £1 anymore. I can't double spend that £1. If we go to banking and I take my credit card for my chocolate bar, what I do is I give them my credit card, that sends a message to the bank then checks my account to see if I have that £1, and if I do, it transfers the money over to the cashier's bank account, sends him a message saying, yep, you've now got that money, and the chocolate bar comes over to me. Now, if I try and do that again, the bank checks my account, sees that I don't have £1, and then won't send the transaction through, or more likely they'll make me go into an overdraft and charge me for the privilege. Crypto is a little bit different. You see, the problem crypto people find is that there's a central arbiter. The bank makes the decision. The bank chooses, in their lexicon, to say that I can send that money, or not send that money, or I have more or less, or I owe them on that money. The problem is that there is a central institution, one person who makes that decision. So crypto does things a little bit differently. If I want my chocolate bar, what I do is I make a send request. I say that I wish to send money to this gentleman over here. And that sends a message to loads of different people. This is what makes blockchain important. It is distributed. There is a ledger, a spreadsheet, very similar to in a bank, but that spreadsheet is held by dozens or even hundreds of different people. So when I want to make that transaction goes to all of these different people who okay the transaction, because now 7, 12, 200 people check the accounts and go, yep, he's got that money, yep, he's got that money, yep, he's got that money. And if there's some disagreement, there's an arbitration process. They send the information back saying, yes, I have that money, it can be sent, and the money is sent over to that person's account. And then, and this is another important part, the trade that has just happened gets added to the ledger. That's what a blockchain is. It's an append-only ledger. That's it. It is a ledger, a spreadsheet that you can only ever add to. You cannot take away, you cannot edit the information. All you can do is add another line to the bottom. There are differences between different blockchains. Again, we're not going to get into that, but overall, this is how blockchains work. I make a transaction, I send Joe Bloggs some money, and then it's put at the bottom of the spreadsheet, James has sent Joe Bloggs some money. So now everybody can go back and check and see James has sent Joe Bloggs this money. Therefore, if you crunch the maths, there is no longer a Bitcoin in his account, there is a Bitcoin in Joe Bloggs' account. And the entire database is available for anyone to look at any time and cannot be changed. So, there you are, I get my chocolate bar at the end of that. Why doesn't it matter? So this works. Blockchain technology works. The idea of a distributed network demonstrably can be used. It is something that is done, right? Bitcoin uses it. All of these different cryptocurrencies use the blockchain and it functions. But why does that not matter? And it comes down to two things. Security and decentralization. That is why you would do a blockchain, for these two reasons. It is secure. Because if we go back to our example, if one person here is a bad actor, or I'm a bad actor, and I want to pretend that I have some money in my account that I don't, I can change my version of the ledger, but when I compare it with everyone else's version of the ledger, they say, well, hang on, there's a problem here. Our versions all say that you're lying. Or if someone in the chain decides to change it, they can tell you off for that, if you like. And then it's this decentralization process, the fact that nobody has overall control. Anyone could be anyone could be involved in this. There's no there's no single arbiter. Problem is, for security, it doesn't matter, because that is what we call a man-in-the-middle attack. It is someone who is changing information that is in transit. Now, it does happen, you've probably heard of it happening before, but these days, it's basically a really bad idea. If you want to scam an old lady out of lots of money, as a scammer, you don't intercept a check and change the details on it. You just convince her to send you the money in the first place. That's how scams are generally done. Confidence tricks. You can do man-in-the-middle attacks, but you're probably not going to make much money that way, and it's very easy to get caught. It's so much easier to just convince someone to send you the money, or get access to their account through phishing or social engineering, and then send the money to yourself. And that's what happens in crypto all the time. Because you can just send. There's no send and confirm. There's no way to reverse that transaction. The only way to reverse a transaction is to have the other person send it back to you. There's no bank or credit card company or government that can reverse it once it's been done. So all they have to do is get access to your account, either by your reckoning or through their own, and get them to send it to you. And these systems are crap. They are built quickly and poorly, and often by very young coders. Now, that's not to say bad things about young coders, but when you're dealing with systems that can be worth millions or billions of dollars, you want a lot of people with a lot of knowledge and experience putting them together. Because these things are shoddily built. They can be hacked. People can get access to tens of thousands of accounts, send all the money to themselves, and that's it. Job done. Transfer the money away, put it through what they call tornadoes, which is where they can scramble it so you don't know where the money's come or where it's gone to or all that sort of things. So these people are able to manipulate the system. The man-in-the-middle blocking of the attack doesn't stop anything. I mean, sure, it stops the man-in-the-middle attacks, but nobody does man-in-the-middle attacks anymore. And if you want to scam, this is the place to be. Web3 is going just great. It's created by an American crypto researcher called Molly White. It's an absolutely fantastic website and Twitter account that keeps track of all of the different scams and hacks and stealing that's going on within the crypto world. These are some of the biggest crypto hacks that have ever happened. The AfriCrypt exit scam and the Thodix exit scam being the two biggest ones, taking $3.6 and $2 billion respectively. And they did that by walking away with the money. You don't need to have a complex scam. You just convince people to send you the money by having this big, exciting project and then walk away with it. The OneCoin scam, you may have heard about before, the BBC did a big documentary on it. That doesn't appear on here because there was never actually any crypto behind it in the first place. They just said there was crypto behind it, people believed them, and then they took the money and ran. So you don't even need to have the crypto behind it to run a crypto scam. The third one there, the Axie Infinity Bridge, we will get to Axie Infinity a little bit later, but that was reckoned to be done by the Lazarus Group, which is North Korea's hacking team. So they managed to extract $625 million from basically exploiting the system and putting themselves in the middle of the transaction. So they kind of did a man-in-the-middle attack by making themselves, so you had to send the money to them to send them somewhere else, and then they just didn't send it on to anyone. So there is no security. These systems are built really, really badly. There's something new every day. These were all ones that came the last couple of weeks. People being hacked for 5 million, people making the things. It can be as simple as, I could send you an NFT. And inside that NFT, in that little text document of 46 kilobytes, is a virus. And if you even click on that virus activates, empties your wallet, sends everything to me. And you can't stop them sending it to you. There's no acceptance of the coins or the tokens you're being sent. They can just put that straight in your wallet as a landmine for you to step on at any time. The only way you can be safe with crypto is if nobody knows you have the crypto in the first place. But the crypto ledgers are always open. And once you've been found to have been caught in a scam, that means your Bitcoin address is open source. Anyone can look at those ledgers and see who got caught in the scam. Brilliant. There's your list of marks for the next one. Middle of this week, the numbers probably changed since then. They have Web 3.0 is going great, has a counter, and to date, $12.295 billion has been scammed and stolen, and that's just the ones that she is keeping track of, which are the ones that hit the Twitter sphere, the ones that hit the internet. Lots more money has been taken all the time that just won't go into this figure. Okay. Security is a problem, obviously, but, maybe we can get some better coders in who can stop these hacks from happening. We can create better cryptocurrencies that you can choose to accept things or not. We can try and work around them. And actually, I do want to very quickly point out, I will not be talking about today the environmental impact of crypto. It's huge. It's burning a lot of fuel. Crypto, it's in line with some countries like Argentina, something like that. I'm not going to be talking about that today because we can deal with that. Ethereum has dealt with that. They've moved from a really wasteful system to a less wasteful system. So we can code around that, and Bitcoin could kind of maybe do the same thing. It's a little bit complicated, but there is a massive environmental impact, but we can code around that. So that's not too much of a problem. That has been done, that can be solved with just a bit of coding. So you might say, well, the security, we can just solve that with a bit of coding, right? We have banking systems that are really secure. We could just make those for crypto. What's important is this decentralization aspect. What is important is that there is no one person in charge. Well, unfortunately, that's not really true. So for some of the bigger cryptocurrencies, your Ethereums, your Bitcoins, that is kind of true, right? The amount of nodes that they have, that is the amount of people who are checking their ledgers against each other, can be massive, hundreds, thousands of people. But an estimate, last March is the most recent figure I could find. There are over 12,000 cryptocurrencies. Over 1,000 of these are worth at least $100,000. So there is a lot of small cryptocurrencies that contain real large amounts of money. And these might only have 4 or 5 different nodes, which means you only need to get access to 4 or 5 different computers, and then you can take charge of that. And in order to do that, the way that these things are usually protected is, you need to have lots of the cryptocurrency, and it is how much cryptocurrency you have that gives you a stake, if you like a share in a company. The more of the cryptocurrency you have, the more of a stake you have, and the more likely and more important you are in the node system. Well, it turns out what you can do is a flash attack. You go to a crypto bank and you borrow a huge amount of cryptocurrency. You use that cryptocurrency to buy up enough of the tokens that gives you the 51% control so that you can take over the entire control of that cryptocurrency. You now have control of the entire cryptocurrency. You can drain it, you can take the money out, you can do all sorts of different things with it to make you a bunch of money. Then you sell that off to pay off your loan, and you have just destroyed a cryptocurrency. If you have it set up right, you can do that in less than a second. This has happened over 100 different times. Flash attacks, they only take part on the smaller blockchains. It does need to be below a certain size, and they already need to have a certain amount of capital, but they don't need that huge amount of money because they can borrow it and then give it back in less than a second, paying just a fraction of the amount for the privilege. So that's the small chains, but the big chains, right, they are too big for this to happen. Even if you bought up millions of dollars, even $1 billion worth of Ethereum or Bitcoin, that doesn't matter, right? Like you can't take over control. Even if you put in loads of money, you're still only going to have a very small control over the system. Well, unfortunately, that's not quite true. You see, forget the 1%. Crypto is generally considered to be controlled by the 0.1%. Just 0.1% of people who hold crypto are thought to hold anywhere up to 87% of all of the major cryptocurrencies. That's Bitcoin, that's Ethereum, that's all of the other major ones there. So though crypto is in the hands of an even smaller number, and you can bet your bottom dollar that a lot of those big holders are the moneyed institutes. The people who got into a fight with Mark Zuckerberg, the Wachowski twins, I can't remember their name, but the twins that, if you've watched the Social Network, they got into a big fight, they're old money kind of people, they've got loads of cryptocurrency. They potentially even have a double-digit percentage of the amount of Bitcoin out there. Lots of the big investment companies, certainly for a time, had huge portfolios of it, and it is thought, again, that this 0.1% of cryptocurrency holders hold anywhere up to 87. The numbers range from anywhere between 40 and like 90%, but it's certainly a very high number. Ethereum, the second biggest cryptocurrency out there. They launch a project quite a while ago now. I can't remember exactly how long ago, and I have not written it down. That's absolutely fine. I think it was about 2015 or so. They launched a project called the DAO, and we will get onto what a DAO is a little bit later on. But it's a project. It's a financial investment scheme. You put your money into the DAO, and you're going to get fantastic returns of 20, 50, hell, why not even 300% returns on your investment? There was a problem. It was really, really badly put together. And 15% of all of the Ethereum in the world was put into the DAO project before its launch. And people warned them. They said, this project has been built on code so shoddy that there is going to be a problem. Someone is going to be able to hack into this system and take money. And they did. A hacker came in and took 5% of all of the Ethereum in existence, which at the time was worth $17 million, and at the peak of Ethereum would have been worth $5.1 billion. They took that money and they kept it. And there's nothing you can do about it. That's their money. Problem is, serious money has gone down the wrong way here. And that is when the true stakeholders, the people behind the scenes, stepped in. Because the people who were in charge, the people who were running the DAO and making lots of money and had built the chain, people like Vitalik Buterin and his various investors, didn't want this to happen. So they forked the chain. They turned Ethereum into two different cryptocurrencies. One of them was the cryptocurrency as it carried on. The other one, they just started from a bit further up the chain. They just rolled it back 2 weeks. We're just going to ignore everything that happened up until 2 weeks ago before the hack, and we'll carry on like nothing ever happened. They created two cryptocurrencies, which are still currently available. There is Ethereum, which is the one that they rolled back, the one that they had the most control of, and Ethereum Classic, which is still the 25th largest cryptocurrency in the world, valued at a market cap of 2.4 billion. Ethereum is number 2 at 220.7 billion, but they just made a new one. Demonstrably, against their ideas of decentralization, they lost a bunch of money and said, cool, we'll start our own cryptocurrency. And it's going to be worth just as much. In fact, it's going to be worth more. This is the true decentralized currency. But it's worth less. And let's not just get over the fact of they just created 2.4 billion by splitting off the chain. They didn't do anything new. They just made a copy of it, but a bit further back. There are people in charge. They like to pretend that they're not in charge because that gets them off the hook for a lot of things. But there are people in charge, and when their capital starts to become at risk, that's when they step in. Okay, what is cryptocurrency for? Nothing. Right, so I want to expand a little bit on that. In fact, the rest of the talk is essentially going to be expanding on that. But crypto is not for anything. Crypto has no purpose. Now, okay, well, what's going on? Bitcoin started as an interesting idea. And I will admit, I was interested in Bitcoin to start with. 2012 was when I first started interacting with Bitcoin. It's an interesting idea. Freedom from the government. I mean, I was in sixth form. I was a child. But it's an interesting idea that we can get involved with cryptocurrency, not have the government breathing down on it, because who really likes the government? I mean, we only need to point to what's been happening this weekend to know that the government doesn't have our back necessarily. So it's a nice idea, and people got sucked in. People wanted this brand new cryptocurrency to take over, to use that, and to have another store of wealth. It is the same reason that people have been stocking gold for literally millennia. It's a store against governments. Now, it's an interesting idea, but there's a slight problem. You see, cryptocurrencies are absolutely worthless as a currency, which is rather a key flaw. This is for three main reasons. First of all, their price fluctuates wildly. They can undergo what would in other currencies be hyperinflation and hyperdeflation in the course of a single day. Your cryptocurrency can change its value by double-digit percentage points within a single day. That is not a stable basis for a currency. Why would you buy a sandwich with your cryptocurrency if tomorrow it could be worth a small car? Right? Or why wouldn't you buy a car today when it might only be worth a sandwich tomorrow? It is not good to store money in a currency that is fluctuating wildly. Now, I had an entire section of this talk which is talking about what is money. That was half an hour in and of itself. We're just going to skip round it and say that it doesn't manage to match with the other currencies. The second problem is the slow transaction times. If I'm handing you some money, it's instantaneous. If you use a bank, it might take, even on a really slow machine, usually fractions of a second, even one of the slow ones where you sit there and the cashier goes, I'm really sorry, it's really slow. No worries. Right, that's going to be like a minute tops. Cryptocurrency transfers, on average, on the big chains, can take, at a minimum, half an hour. Sometimes days. Because the cryptocurrency system has a lot of number crunching to do. When you make that transfer, you have to do a lot of maths. And in fact, that's what happens when you run a Bitcoin program. You're crunching the numbers for everyone else's transactions. And then you get given a bit of money for helping out with that. So that number crunching, for a bigger chain, you have to go into a queue. And not only do you have to go into a queue, you have to pay for the privilege, something called a gas fee. And that gas fee changes. It could be as low as $10. It could be $100. Gas fees have gone as high as $100,000 for a transfer. Now, that happens when people are competing because essentially you bid for your slots in the queue. So if you really wanted to go through now, you're willing to pay more, and these people are flush with Bitcoin, so they're willing to pay that amount. But if you wanted to use it as a cryptocurrency, imagine if every time you wanted to use your card in a shop, it could cost you anywhere between a couple of pounds and a couple of £1,000, depending on what's going on in the rest of the world. And it could only transact about a couple of hundred transactions per second. Per minute. Visa can do 1 million transactions per minute. So it's not even close in terms of scale. The third problem with cryptocurrency being a currency is no one takes it, right? How useful is a currency you can't buy anything with? So we could take, there were various places that said they would take cryptocurrency, Tesla being the big one. You might even see some places that got a little sticker, we accept Bitcoin here. Generally speaking, most people have rescinded that offer, and I bet you really struggle to actually buy in any of those places for the reasons we've talked about. Half an hour delays, you're paying, I think on an average day it's around $50 for a gas fee in Bitcoin. Ethereum, a little bit less because they've got a slightly more advanced system for that. So it's not very useful. And we could talk about all the different things about, currencies, does gold really have any value? That kind of stuff. Because that's the problem. There is no value to a Bitcoin as a currency, and it doesn't do anything else. So its only value is that someone else will buy it off you for more money. And its only value to them is that someone will buy it off them for more money. And its only value to them is that someone will buy, and so on and so forth. Someone is going to get left holding the bag at the end of the chain. Now, again, you can talk about, well, actually, that's how gold works, right? What use does gold have, really, to the average person? You can make nice jewelry and all that sort of thing. Or cash, right? Cash is only useful because you can swap it for something. And you are right. It's very complicated. I'm not going to go into it today. But basically, right, if you walked into a shop and wanted to buy a packet of crisps and you had a gold bar, I bet you they'd take it. So, how then, if you have bought into this, right, Bitcoin is exciting, you put some money in, you've made some money, the investments have gone up because more people have bought in, you are now a Bitcoin millionaire, you've got $3 million worth of Bitcoin, you can't use it, so what do? You cash out. You need to convince some other sucker to buy it off you. And that's what NFTs are for. That is why NFTs exist. NFTs are a device for making people cash out. Now, again, I can see I'm already starting to run out of time, so we're going to go through this real fast. Okay, what is an NFT? An NFT is a token, and that token has a serial number. That serial number it makes it unique, strictly unique. Anyone could have the same kind of token, but it's got a serial number on it. No one can have that same serial number. And the reason that I'm saying serial number is because you can put stuff inside them, right? Now, you might put something like this. This is board 85699. This is a board ape that you could go and purchase for yourself. It was last purchased about 2 weeks ago for 57.75 Ethereum, which is about $110,000. In order to get that as a token, what happens is you couldn't fit this picture inside one of these tokens. It's too big. It's far too big. All you can do is put a link to that picture inside the token. I followed that. That's where I got this picture from. That is the actual picture that is linked to by the token. That comes with all of the same rights and privileges. Actually, Bored Ape Yacht Club is a little bit different. When you do buy one, you do actually technically get the rights to that image. A lot of places, you don't. All you get is a link to a picture of that image. You don't even get usage rights for it. I followed the link from the token to that picture, and that is the exact same picture. And it is just a link. So theoretically, if I go to their server architecture somewhere, I could just change the link. I could delete the link. All the token does is give them the link to that ape. I don't get how that's worth money. I wish I had some way to you to say like how that is valuable, but I just don't. You get nothing. You get a link to a picture of it. People can talk about originality, and you could confirm that this is the one of one, but I could just mint another token, and the only difference would be that serial number. In fact, if I went onto a different chain, I could, if I was very clever, I could probably get the same serial number just on a different chain. Or if I forked the chain, haha, there's now two exact copies of the same one, they're just on the different forked versions of the same. And this happened for Ethereum, right? They had a load of NFTs that are on both sides of the chain, and they're both exactly the same. So how this is worth money, I just can't tell you. Interestingly, the person who last bought this one bought it for 100 Ethereum, which was 300,000. So they lost about 2/3 of their investment on that one. So we can take some solace. Right, again, going really fast. Why is it worth money, right? Why are people buying these NFTs then? Again, it's so people think they're going to be worth more money in the future. Why do people think it's going to be worth more money in the future? This is the first 1,000 days. It was a piece of artwork by a man called Beeple, who was an artist, and every day he did a little drawing or a bit of artwork, digital artwork. And he sold that at Christie's auction house for $69 million. That's a lot of money. And a lot of people heard about it. It was all over the news. This is probably where you first heard about NFTs. Some guy has sold these digital art for $69 million. That's incredible. People are interested. The art market, we all know you can make a lot of money selling a Da Vinci, so you could get in at the ground floor. You could buy the Da Vinci that's just been painted and then sell it on in the future. There was then a flurry of meme sales. So things like Overly Attached Girlfriend sold for $420,000, Disaster Girl sold for $400,000, and that one with the dancing pallbearers, that sold for $600,000. Again, a link to them sold. And like, not even a link to the first place they were posted, just a link to it, and they sold it as the first tweet. Right? Again, it was just the link to the first tweet, which I could just send you all in an email, but they put that inside a token and sold it as the first tweet. There's a thing about this, right? So clearly some people think it's worth money, but who think it's worth money? Well, all of these were bought by one man, Fard. This is a man who was convicted for Ponzi schemes in Iraq. Just think that through. This man was convicted of Ponzi schemes in Iraq, partially during the Saddam years, and he bought all of these. And this made a lot of people interested, because they were seeing these big figures. That's all it was. It's a confidence game. There's big money to be made. Now, when people bought into those currencies, that meant that people who had crypto could get out. And that meant that all of their assets in crypto became worth more, because more and more people were buying in. The line was getting bigger. There was more money around, so you could cash out, and all of their holdings became worth way, way more. The person who bought the Beeple artist, he was a colleague. He was a financier of Beeple's work. It's all circular together, and we can talk about the art world being very similar, and yes, it kind of is. The art market is absolutely screwed up and very self-absorbed, but this is happening with the NFTs at an even higher, more important, higher rate. So here's the thing, right? We ran out of memes. Okay, so there's only so many memes out there. We've run out of them. People want to buy something else. Well, let's make some nice digital art, right? Digital art it's good. I don't want to say digital art is worthless, but digital art, it's very hard to make money off digital art, right? Because it's there on the computer, and you can just copy and paste it, and you can save it, and you can put these up, right? Like, I don't have technically any of the rights to these. These are all Creative Commons images, so I kind of do. But like, I don't own these images, and I can just put them up for you to see, right? So digital art, there it is. How do you make money off that? Well, NFTs can make money, right? You can turn it into digital art. So people started turning digital art in, and artists saw this as a way to maybe make some money. So they bought into crypto, and by and large, didn't really make any money back. But people were still buying these things. The money just wasn't going to the artists. It was going to the people who were trading it. And there's another problem. Like, art's hard. Art takes talent. So they didn't use that anymore, because they ran out. In fact, they started stealing people's art. DeviantArt, which is one of the biggest repositories on the internet, launched a tool that could tell you if your art had been stolen to be used on a cryptocurrency trading NFT platform anywhere. So they started stealing art, and they started running out of art. So they realized, okay, what we need to do is we need a way of generating lots of art really quickly to turn into tokens that we can sell. So they made generative art. It's a Mr. Potato Head, basically, right? What they do is they make the base figure of a tiger, and then they make like some glasses and the headphones and the cigar, and then they just generate it, like dealing a deck of cards. This one, it has the headband. And this one has the headband, but it also has one of the necklaces. They could generate tens of thousands of these things, and that's actually the number that typically is used, is when they would produce some NFTs, they would produce 10,000 of these, randomly generated at the same time. Here are a bunch of different projects, and there are thousands, if not tens of thousands, of different NFT art out there. And I don't want to just like put this up without saying, God, they're ugly! This is not art that anyone likes. It is not designed to be liked. You could own art and you could support artists, and you can. I've done it before. I've bought some art that I've seen online that I wanted to own, because that's a thing that humans we want to do. We want to own nice things. These are not nice things. People don't want to own these because of the artwork. Who wants like this weird ape with the things of the rainbow-coloured dog? Nobody wants. Or this one, just a marble. It's just a marble with a different coloured thing in the middle. Or my favourite one, actually. It's very small down there. Someone sold tulips, NFTs of tulips, which absolutely hilarious if you know anything about the tulip trade. So people are not buying NFTs to buy the artwork. They're buying it for the same reason they're buying cryptocurrency, because they want to sell it on someone who'll make it for more, who'll do it for more, and so on and so forth. So you've got exactly the same problem, it's just delayed. So what do? They tried to give cryptocurrency a purpose. Why should you buy an NFT? You know, we've run out of the big memes and we're just pumping out crap art, so why should you buy it? Well, they have three main reasons to buy an NFT. And the first one is the community. You're not buying an NFT, you are buying a ticket into our community. We have a roadmap. When people buy our NFT, you're going to get an album, an exclusive album only to holders. We're going to hold some events. You can get access to a stage at like Coachella because you've got one of our cryptocurrencies. There is some fantastic ones like, we're going to release a comic only to people that hold the cryptocurrencies. In fact, some of them even say that if we sell enough of these, you're going to get direct dividends for that one. Because the project's going to make X amount, we'll give you some percentage of that amount. If you're buying an NFT, you're not just buying that NFT, you are buying your way into our community. Problem is, that takes time, effort, and talent. So what would generally happen is that you would be instead given something basic, like access to specific chat rooms, or you would be given like some more art, or one of the biggest ways was new NFTs, right? You could use your current NFTs to make more NFTs. And this is one of my favorite tweets of all time. This is a real tweet that says, a lot of y'all still don't get it. Ape holders can use multiple slurp juices on a single ape. So if you have one Astro ape and 3 slurp juices, you can create 3 new apes. Tonight's slurp juice mint event is essentially a minting event for both lab monkeys and special forces. Wild! No idea what that means. That is a real tweet that someone tweeted out. All you could do with these different events, generally speaking, didn't materialize. Every single one of these on here is what we call a rug pull. That is where the developers gave some sort of roadmap for, we'll do this, we'll do that, we'll do the other. And once they sold their NFTs, they took the money and ran. Some of these, every single one on here, made at least $100,000. It doesn't matter if you don't sell all of the NFTs that you've made. If you sell a couple of them for $1,000 a pop, fantastic, you've just made a couple of $1,000s for basically no effort. It's generative artwork. You hire one artist to do a few Mr. Potato Head bits, and you just sell off 20 of those. Fantastic. Now, which ones were set up as rug pulls, and which ones tried to do their best and then were just like badly managed by sometimes literal children? That's for another matter. The most successful of these, however, was the Bored Ape Yacht Club, which you may have heard of before, and they have these pictures of bored apes, which once again are just ugly. So they have all of these Bored Ape Yacht Clubs here, and this is the most successful NFT thing. It is still going, it is still making money. There has so far been over $2 billion in sales of these really ugly monkeys, and the average ape of the 10,000 apes that exist is $70,000. This one here, this is the highest ape that has ever been sold for. It's sold for $2.8 million for just that one. Again, link to a picture of an ape, and is now worth about $1.5 million. So again, we can take some solace in that. So this is a company, the Bored Ape Yacht Club company, because there is a company in charge. They might pretend that it's all decentralized, but there is a company in charge. They have a war chest of millions, and they wanted to do stuff with that. They wanted to show and show how much good they could do with their money, because it's all a hype game. If your NFTs work, is if people believe your NFTs work. So you've got to hype it. The more hype you get, the more money you get. And if you get enough hype, it's a successful project. So they've turned their millions of dollars into this absolutely god-awful Webtoons program. That's some actual animation from this studio that had access to millions of dollars. They didn't even release the 3rd episode, it was that bad. And they also made a mobile game that you could only access if you had the tokens, and you could go through the game to earn more tokens, and there was this whole pass with different apes and ape dogs, and you got tears, and those tears gave you... It was about chasing poos down a literal sewer. That is the level of humor we are working with, was that the most successful cryptocurrency NFT project in the world made a goal. They made like, what's it called, the train runner game, or Temple Run, you might remember that. They made that, but about chasing poos down a sewer. Wild. Again, we're really running out of time here. Okay, so desperately giving cryptos a purpose, video games. Video games make a lot of sense, right? There are digital items in games at the moment that people want to buy. I myself relatively regularly buy digital items inside video games. So it makes a lot of sense. Okay, well, we'll turn those into NFTs and you can trade them and you can move them around. Great, people buy into that. The problem is you've got to do it into games that people want to play, because otherwise they don't have value. People buy things in games like World of Warcraft or RuneScape or Final Fantasy XIV, which are massive games that have hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people playing them. So the problem is that it takes time to build games that people want to play. Now, some companies did airdrop some in. This is from an Ubisoft game, Tom Clancy's, oh God, one of them. I don't know, they've made about 17,000 different games with Tom Clancy's name on. Ghost Recon. This is Ghost Recon. It's a game, you shoot people in like a country that they pretend isn't a real country. They say it's not political, but you are literally assassinating Banana Republic people. And it's, right, there's a serial number. They sold like 1,000 copies of this hood, gun, and trousers, which were like just items in the game, that literally had a serial number in them. This was called their Quartz project. It went okay, they sold out for the first lot, and then basically no one's bought them since. So lots of companies announced that they were going to do crypto stuff in their games, and thanks to a lot of people deriding them for it, and the bottom falling out of the market, most of them have quietly dropped that they're going to do any crypto. The only major company that's still in is Square Enix. But if you know anything about Square Enix, they've been making a lot of questionable decisions recently in like selling off all of their really important IPs. So I wouldn't trust them with anything. So it's really hard, you need talent to put them into games, and they tried it with a few big games, so basically none of the big boys are doing it anymore. Okay, crypto first games then. Games which are all about the crypto. They're not games that you play to have fun in, they are games where you play to earn money. Okay, maybe sounds about right. The biggest of these is Axie Infinity, because again, a lot of them are made by people who don't really know what they're doing and can't code very well, so a lot of them were crap. The only good one is Axie Infinity, and it's basically a bad knockoff of Pokemon. You get little Axies and you train them up and you have them fight, and when they fight you earn smooth love potions, which is a kind of cryptocurrency which can be traded, and that can be used to make more Axies. And at one time these Axies were going for thousands, tens of thousands of dollars. If you wanted to do this to start earning, you needed to buy in. You needed to buy these Axies. You needed to spend tens of thousands of dollars to buy in. For a while, what would happen was they would have people who would own the cryptocurrency, they would own the wallet, and they would farm out the actual playing of the game, because remember, no one actually wants to play this game, it's crap. They farmed out the playing of the game to places like the Philippines. And they told people in the Philippines, okay, if you play this game and earn me cryptocurrency, I'll give you a bit of it. And for a while, because the prices were high enough, they were able to make more than the Philippines minimum wage. So there were lots of big breathy headlines about, oh wow, people can earn more, can earn a living doing this. There was then a downturn because more Axies coming into the game, more smooth love potions coming into the game. That means they're going to be worth less. And these days you can pick up an Axie for about $10 a pop. So the bottom fell out of the market. You can't really make money anymore, and it was never going to be sustainable. They tried things like cutting in half how much smooth love potions there was, which of course a lot of people weren't happy with. And then there was also a massive hack by the North Korean government. So, you know, that really didn't help. Still kind of going, just this last week, Wizardry, which is a really old, venerable series. Wizardry 8 was the last game, 1999. It moved over to Asia, really popular over there. They made like an MMO and stuff. I'm going to run through real fast. It's still going. They've announced this. Look at it looks terrible. Video games. 2022 versus 2023. You can see the sheer amount of people that have dropped off. DAOs, they're supposed to be organisations that are run by crypto. They're not. It's smoke and mirrors. It's your coin. One coin. Right. Crypto collapse very quickly. NFTs. People just aren't interested in anymore. Right. The amount has dropped off. You have something called the Luna Terra DPEG. They said that they would trade $1 for 1 Luna, and they had a whole system behind it. It didn't work. It all collapsed. Not good at all, and everyone lost a lot of money. This wiped 50% off the entire crypto market. This one incident wiped 50% off the entire crypto market. Good old-fashioned fraud, FTX. You've probably heard about it. A man made tokens, inflated their value, and then borrowed off the back of it. He invented billions and billions of dollars. They're doing exactly the same thing that they said the banks were doing. And they're just doing it themselves, but with crypto. He's up for charges, all that sort of stuff. Crypto collapse, notional value of crypto, it's now about a third of what it once was. In fact, you can see that's the FTX collapse there, that's the lunar depeg, and that was something called Celsius. 50% of the market was wiped off by single events. No matter how bad the markets are, that's just not happening with them. Okay, crypto future. Final slide. I was very sorry for having to run through this right at the end. Is there a crypto future? Short answer, kinda. This is the top 50 cryptocurrencies. The ones in red are currently under investigation by the American Securities Exchange Commission for being unlicensed, unregulated securities, which is super illegal. The biggest one being Binance, which is the biggest crypto trading thing around. If they get their way, all of these are going to go down. This is the amount of crypto capital raised for crypto firms this year, and this is only to May this year, 0.5 billion as opposed to the 21.6 billion last year. The people who have the money, the people who make the system work, who prime everything, have gone into crypto and by and large lost a lot of money. They're all investing in AI now. AI has taken the place of crypto. Now, we have a whole conversation about AI. It's better than crypto. Let's put it that way. But people are still overblowing a lot of the things that it can do. So, are we going to have a crypto future? Maybe. The use cases are still exactly the same now as they were back then. There isn't use. So there may be some resurgence. There was never a means of true basis for the surge in the first place, so maybe there could be another one. And people can still make money. You can still buy low, sell high. But the most people that are going to make money are going to be the scammers that are out there just taking that money in. I'm afraid that is everything. We just have a little bit of time for questions, and I will be hanging around afterwards as well. And my final advice is if you are thinking about investing in crypto, don't. And if you do have some crypto, you should probably try and divest. Unless it's worth absolutely nothing at the moment, then might as well hold on to it. It might go up for no reason anyway. Sorry about that. Thank you.
That is on. James Lees is going to be selling his own James coin over at the table over here in a little while. If you haven't been convinced by this, I have an 18-year-old daughter who comes to me every once in a while with her phone and says, "Dad, I've got this really funny thing," and shows it to me. And I go, "What? I don't." That was an hour of that same experience.
It's fine. I don't understand it anyway.
There's so many bits of it where I just look at it and go, "I'm in the wrong century. I shouldn't be here." We have a little bit of time for a few questions before we get kicked out, but do any of you want to know anything about what just happened? Other than, what just happened? We have a microphone up the back, and I think there's someone in the very front row, and came in very early and had quite an attitude about crypto, to be honest. So I think this one should be a good one. Is it on?
Just ask your question.
I was going to say I did GCSE drama. I know how to like. But yeah, as like a software engineer, the amount of like LinkedIn like inboxes I have on a weekly basis where people are like, "Hi, I could really use your skills for this project that I have." I'm like, "Oh, really? What's the project?" And it's always crypto scam. But I do find it quite interesting that the kind of the birth of Bitcoin and Ethereum came from this kind of like anger against. You know, raging against the machine and the ban and stuff. And I wonder with this crypto future, now that we're hopefully going to shed away some of the scammers, whether or not it could go back to that like anti.
Sure.
Kind of like,
okay.
What you're saying is we need more anger in crypto. We need to get back to its roots.
Amazon Web Services has like a blockchain as a service thing, which. It's like, oh, I'm not going to trust the government, but I'll trust Amazon.
Yes,
Sure.
So, is there a future in going back to its roots?
Just to repeat for the recording, it's been asked of, with all of this downturn, is it now going to go back to that sort of original idea of Rage Against the Machine? And no, it's going to be the other direction. It is going to be the when you get the call, it used to be the call of PPI insurance people, or the your car. Have you been involved in an accident? It's just probably going to turn into that, right? The people that are left are the scammers, and they're going to stick around for as long as they can make some money. And the idea is still very attractive. People still want to get involved with that anti-establishment stuff, but essentially the scammers have got their claws in. So it might do, right? I can't see the future, but I just don't see it going that way because they know that they can make money, and they can still make huge amounts of money even after the downturn. So until there's no money in the system, the scammers are going to be around.
It does feel like a rather uphill battle against human nature at
Yeah,
this point.
yeah.
Has anyone else got a question or a comment? Gentleman here in the second row.
What are the chances of a government-backed digital currency?
Okay. Government-backed digital currency, yes, right? Probably, right? Governments can do that, but it doesn't matter because it's not actually cryptocurrency. So digital currencies are, for all intents and purposes, going to be, for the common person, it will be not very different to physical money that's printed by the government. It is essentially a different packaging for it, but for a day-to-day use, we won't see a difference for it, because if there was too much of a difference for it, they wouldn't do it. It might give them access to some sort of financial instruments and more ways of messing around with money, which might be really interesting to them. It has implications, but for you or I, effectively, there will be no difference between the digital currency and the real currency, because they will almost certainly back it with real currency. One digi-pound could almost certainly at any point be traded for a pound sterling, and I think that's the way that's probably going to go. Easier to track them. Ooh.
Just say that the Treasury has pulled out of that.
And so the lady at the back said that the Treasury has actually pulled out of the idea, which, makes a lot of sense.
It was a sexy idea there for about 18 months. And
But there are some countries around the world that might look to do it. I think, is it Argentina? Ecuador. Ecuador is really big into the crypto. They've got the guys into the crypto, and by and large has lost a lot of money for the country getting into that.